Hello everyone, and welcome back to Beverly's Stunning Creations. In this DIY, I'll show you how I turned two of the Dollar Tree hanging baskets into this glamorous pumpkin. It doesn't have all the curves of a traditional pumpkin, and that's what I love about it, because that makes it very unique. Use this pumpkin to decorate your home for Halloween, and then on to Thanksgiving. So if you like what you see and want to learn how, then please keep watching. In this DIY, I'll be using two of the Dollar Tree hanging baskets. First thing I'll do is remove the chains from both baskets. I'm going to save these chains for a later DIY. Next, I'm going to snip these metal loops off both baskets. Next up, I have this funnel that I picked up from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use it to make a stem for my pumpkin. I want the stem to lean, and that'll give it a more realistic look. So to achieve that, I'm going to need to use my heating tool. Now I'm going to hold this at an angle, and I'm going to burn a hole above that circle at the top of the basket, and then put another hole just beneath that circle. I held the stem in the same position and continue to burn more holes around the funnel. This may not make sense to you right now, but continue to watch and you'll see exactly what I'm doing. Now I'll use these cable ties that I picked up from Dollar Tree to hold my funnel in place. So what I'm doing here is pushing the tie through both holes, so one will come out the top hole and the other part will come out the bottom hole, just like this. I put the funnel inside the ring and then close the tie around it. I also made sure to hold the funnel in the right position as I secured the tie. I cut off the excess and then continue to add more ties around the ring. After I secured the funnel, I added some additional holes. I'll let this heating tool cool down, change the attachment so that I can cut the funnel. I'll also continue to add more ties to hold the funnel in place. I'm done adding all of the ties, and as you can see, it's really secure. Now I'll use this blade to cut the funnel. As you can see, now I have an open hole. So what I'm going to do now is take some of this foam board from Dollar Tree and cut a circle out and fill in the hole with a circle. I trim the circle so it'll fit just inside the hole. I then glue the piece in place with some hot glue. I put some lines of hot glue on the stem to make it look more realistic. Off camera, I cut off the bottom part of the funnel. I also added some wire to the bottom half of my pumpkin. I'll be adding this wire to the top half as well. And I'm using this wire that I also picked up at Dollar Tree. I unraveled some of the wire and then took the end of the wire and started twisting it around the basket. I pulled the wire tight and then wrapped it around the next section of the basket. And I'll continue this all the way around, tie it off and make sure that it's tight, and then go up another level. Now when you get to the end of the first row, you just tie it off the way that I'm doing it now. Just wrap it a few different ways and then go up to the next level. When you get to the end of the second row, you do the same thing. Wrap it in different ways, make sure that it's tight, and start your third row. Okay, so fast forward. I'm almost done. When I got to the very top, I just kind of zigzagged the wire. Now there's no pattern to add in the wire because it's not part of the final design. I'm simply adding the wire to hold the tissue paper in place that I'll be adding next. When you're done wrapping your wire, cut off about ½ inch more than you need, then tightly wrap it around the basket. As you can see, the pumpkin is starting to come together. Now I'll line up all the sections that match the best and then use my ties to tie them together. I put one tie in place and then added more ties as I turned the pumpkin around. I tightened all the ties with some pliers and then cut off the excess pieces. And now I have the frame for my pumpkin, or should I call it my pumpkin skeleton. Now there's so many ways I could have decorated this pumpkin, and I'll leave some more ideas in the description below. But meanwhile, let's get on with this DIY. I'm going to use this tissue paper and Mod Podge to cover my pumpkin. This will be the foundation for my design. I'm going to tear out pieces of paper, then I'll brush the Mod Podge onto the stem and the pumpkin frame, and then apply the paper on top of the Mod Podge. As you can see, I applied the paper to the stem first and then worked my way downward. Continue to cover the pumpkin with the paper. If you get a small hole, just tear off a piece and cover it and keep going. So I'm going to continue to cover the pumpkin, come back and go on to the next step. Okay, so I'm back and this is how the pumpkin looks after completely covering it with one layer of the paper. I'm going to let this completely dry and then I'll add one additional layer. I let both layers of the paper completely dry, and then I went on to add some caulk to my pumpkin off camera. And this is the caulk I'm using. Again, this is from Dollar Tree. Now Dollar Tree sells the same caulk in two different containers. This one you normally use with a caulking gun, but I didn't have one. So I just used the back of a hammer to push the caulk out of the container. Then I used one of those plastic tools that I purchased from Dollar Tree as well to spread the caulk onto my pumpkin. Now this is going to make it more sturdier. It's going to make it harder and firmer. I covered the entire pumpkin with the caulk and then let it dry overnight. And here's what my pumpkin looks like after the caulk completely dried. Now because I used two of the Dollar Tree baskets to make this pumpkin, it's not as round as a traditional pumpkin. It's more of an abstract design, and that's what I like about it. I'm going to be adding some silver glitter to the stem later, so I went ahead and painted it silver. Now if I did this step again, I would actually wait before I painted it because I ended up having to handle it and it was really sticky in my hand. So if any of you decide to make this, wait before you paint the stem. Next, I painted all the lines on the pumpkin with some silver acrylic paint. Initially, I was going to use some bling wrap to put over these lines, and as you know, it's a mesh so you can see through it, and that's why I painted the line silver. so you wouldn't see the white coming through the bling. But then I changed my mind and decided to go with the mirrors instead. I'm going to cut off 2 rolls of the mirror tiles and then put them on the pumpkin. As you know, the mirror tiles come with adhesive on the back, and I didn't need to add any additional adhesive because it stuck to the caulk really well. I'll continue to add more mirror tiles on the lines and then move on to the next step. Okay, so now I have all the mirror tiles in place and I can start decorating my pumpkin. I'm going to use the tool with the pointed tip from this pack to apply the caulk to my pumpkin. Then I'll put the crushed glass on top of the caulk. I covered the majority of that section with the caulk and then applied my crushed glass to the caulk. I used this caulk and crushed glass in a previous DIY and it held the crushed glass in place perfectly. Before you apply the crushed glass, try and find a shallow box to put underneath your pumpkin to catch the excess crushed glass. I didn't have one, so I ended up putting down some tissue paper to catch the glass, and then eventually I stood up and put a bowl underneath the pumpkin so that it would catch the excess glass. Okay, so I'm going to add the rest of the glass off camera, come back and then go on to the next step. Here I'm just showing you how I finished the bottom off. I did the same thing, applied a mirror towel, added more caulk and more crushed glass. I let the bottom of my pumpkin dry for about 3 hours. Then I brushed some Mod Podge on the stem and then covered it with glitter. Now I'll let that dry. Once it dries, I'll come back and add a little bit of glitter in the Mod Podge and brush it on to seal it. Now I'll let this layer dry as well. Alright, so now my stem is completely dry and my pumpkin is complete. Now you can stop here if you want to, or you can just add some more accents to it. I'm going to add one of those spiral vines to my pumpkin, and I'm going to use this wire from Dollar Tree to create one. Sorry, but my battery died while I was creating the swirl. All you need to do is just wrap the wire in a circle. I used some needle nose pliers to create a small loop at the end, and I'll use that loop to glue my vine onto my pumpkin. Off camera, I'm going to spray paint the wire silver so it'll match my pumpkin. I also added some Mod Podge and glitter to the wire to give it more sparkle. Now I'm just figuring out how I want the spiral to lay on my pumpkin. Now that I have that figured out, I'm going to add some of these clear beads to my wire. Now remember, these steps are optional. You can copy my design or come up with one of your own. Now I'll continue to add beads until my wire is completely covered. I closed it off with a small loop at the top, just like the one at the bottom, and as you can see, the beads will not come off. I glued the vine onto the pumpkin with some hot glue, but later I removed it and added some Gorilla Glue along with the hot glue. After the hot glue set up, I glued a rhinestone right on top of the loop. As you can see, the spiral really did add to the look. I really love the beads on the wire. I thought about adding a couple of leaves to the pumpkin, but then decided to add a bow instead. I already had this bow on hand. The ribbon came from Dollar Tree as well. I simply hot glued it on, put a rhinestone in the center of the bow, and I was done. Okay everyone, this completes my DIY. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave me a thumbs up. I'll have a new video up on Wednesday, and I hope to see you then.